During his earthly ministry, the people, mostly the Jews, doubted the deity of Jesus. Even in the days of Apostle John, the Beloved. As it was in the days of Jesus and John, the Beloved, so it is today. But to be free of doubts about Jesus, we've decided to bring you the 7 signs that prove the divinity and deity of Jesus. True enough, everything about Jesus showcased the genuineness of his divinity and deity. But these 7 signs recorded in the Gospel of John reveal some very significant characteristics of the power of Jesus, and they confirm his deity. These 7 signs. Are they really 7 or 8 in number, as there's a controversy on this by many scholars? Well, let's find out in this video. Welcome back. We'll do nothing today but highlight the 7 signs that confirm the deity of Jesus. I pray this confirms your faith as you did to the disciples of Jesus. These signs occurred before the Passion of Christ. They are: Number 1. The turning of water to wine. According to John chapter 2 verses 6 through to 11, there was a supernatural event that occurred in a wedding ceremony in Cana of Galilee. Naturally, it might seem impossible, but it informs how Christ has the total control over the course of nature. The water, in the 6 water pots, meant for washing, according to the Jewish custom, was turned into an abundance of wine. This began his miracles, since he launched fully into the ministry, which also confirmed the faith of his disciples. Jesus did not do this for some irrelevant magic show, but to attend to the dire needs of people. He is God, who brings something out of nothing. Number 2. The healing of the royal officials or the nobleman's son in Capernaum. John chapter 4 verses 46 through to 54 rehearses a seemingly impossible event only a God could make happen. Jesus, having come again to Cana, was besought by a nobleman, who traveled 15 miles from Capernaum, only for his dying son in Capernaum. Mind you, from Capernaum to Cana was a day's journey. Here's a long distance that seemed nothing to Jesus. But all Jesus had to do was tell the man, "Go your way. Your son will live." And it happened the same hour. This shows how Christ's word alone is supernaturally powerful. He'll speak into your life today, and it shall not remain the same. After all, the prologue of the Gospel of John declared that, "The Word was with God, and the Word was God." Do you believe in His Word? Number 3. The healing of the paralytic man at Bethesda. John chapter 5 verses 1 through to 15, a man, whose name is unknown, had infirmity for 38 years. Wow! It's a long-standing problem. However, on one Sabbath day, Jesus authoritatively told him to rise up, take up his bed, and walk. What a God in flesh. After all, he's Emmanuel, God with us. Jesus, known as the Lord of the Sabbath in the other Gospels, showed himself as God over all times. No time seems a barrier to his work. If your problem has been there for a long time, why not let it know that you have a Jesus, a God, who came from heaven in human form, who was before the world began, an eternal Christ. Number 4. The miraculous feeding of the 5,000 men, aside women and children. One of the undisputable truths that confirm that Jesus is God. John chapter 6 verses 5 through to 14 narrates an event which had never happened before. Just with 2 small fish and 5 barley loaves, about 5,000 men were fed, and it remained 5 baskets full. In another gospel, Matthew chapter 14 verse 21 includes beside women and children. Technically, the multitudes fed with this little provision that turned abundant, were beyond 5,000. He divulged himself as the God of provisions. He did what God did for Israel in the Old Testament, which made it credible that he's the same God of Old Testament in flesh. God fed the people of Israel out of nowhere, so did Jesus. Number 5. The preternatural walking on the water. Quite seems impossible to fleshy being. Only a spirit could do this. Only a God could as well. John 4:24 says, God is a spirit. However, if Jesus did it, did that make him a human or a God? Even his disciples were afraid, because they thought it was one dreadful spirit. Are you still doubting? Number 6. The healing of the born blind man. John chapter 9 verses 1 through to 7 recounts an event on the Sabbath day. Remember, a Sabbath day was a day of worship for Israel. With a little artistic act, but symbolical prophetically, Jesus healed the man. Here, Jesus showed himself to be the God of creation, who could recreate to perfect the creation. Number 7. The last sign before his passion was raising the dead Lazarus. When Lazarus was sick, Jesus was called to heal him, but he said, "The sickness is not unto death, but for the glory of God." He owns the glory? God. So, he appended, that the Son of Man may be glorified by it. This doesn't show Jesus as an uncaring Lord, but a Son of God waiting to be glorified as God through the sign. But after 4 days, Lazarus died. And John chapter 11 verses 33 through to 45 tells how Jesus went there and called him back to life. He is the God of life. However, the remaining sign, which some count as the 8th, happened after the passion and the resurrection of Jesus. The multiple catch of fish at his command, as shown in John chapter 21 verses 6 through to 11. Viewers, Jesus is more than what we think. 1 Timothy chapter 3 verse 16 says, "And without controversy, great was the mystery of godliness, God was manifest in the flesh." It's purely out of controversy, because what's a mystery to the unbelievers has been shown to his own people. Put your faith in Christ, and you'll never be disappointed.